Welcome to Later in Life. I'm Bob Bullen. I'm sure all of us have someone that we've known for decades, but we've never actually met. And for me, that person is Robbie Rozelle. Now, while we've never actually had a face-to-face conversation until this virtual one a few days ago, as a musical theater kid in the early mid-90s, I had already known Robbie Rozelle, but I didn't quite know how. And chances are, if you are around our age and around the internet at that time too, you also know Robbie. He built fan websites long before social media existed, including a really iconic fan website that we'll get to. He helped produce many cast albums that we know and love. And he did that well before streaming, back when they were CDs. And he somehow managed to have his name tucked into the liner notes of more than 300 albums, which, by the way, still surprises him. Now, if you're under 35, there's a decent chance parts of this conversation are going to sound like archaeological research. We talk about AOL chat rooms, GeoCities websites, cast albums, liner notes, waiting for Broadway CDs to arrive in the mail, basically two Gen X theater nerds accidentally spending a few minutes reminiscing about the Wild West days of the internet before remembering we were supposed to be recording a podcast. But underneath all that nostalgia is a story that fits this podcast perfectly. Now, Robbie didn't move to New York until he was 35. He never set out to become a record producer. He didn't imagine himself performing at 54 Below until other people finally convinced him to stop hiding behind the scenes and tell his own story. And today, he's worked alongside legends such as Stephen Sondheim and Maury Yeston. He's helped direct and conceive some of Broadway's biggest stars with their own cabaret performances. And he's built a career he never actually planned. We talk about growing up gay in a small town, moving to New York with $300 in a prayer, why kindness might be the best networking strategy there is, and he also tells an unforgettable story about the time Patti LuPone used him as a footstool. Now here's my conversation with Robbie Rozelle.
Oh, God, new tricks. We still got a few hits. Never the wrong time to step to the starting line. Sometimes it's later in life.
Robbie Rozelle!
Hi there, how are you?
It's so nice to meet you finally after all these years.
Wild.
It's crazy. You've been like in my periphery like around 30 years, something. Like
that's crazy.
Like I know people who know you, or like you've been like in the same chat rooms I've been in when I first got online when I was 16. Like there's a lot of like overlap with our stuff.
100%. So. That definitely happened. Yes.
Oh my God. Robbie, give people a sense of who you are, because I certainly know who you are, like in general, but I don't really know who you are beyond what you've chosen to put out there.
Sure. I really hate the word like multi-hyphenate or Renaissance man. I guess they apply, but I don't really see myself that way. I'm a performer, director, record producer, graphic designer. I wear many hats, but they all sort of they're all different streams that sort of feed the same body of water. So yeah. I don't really know how to describe myself where it doesn't sound making myself bigger than I feel I am. I'm a guy who works in theater.
I think you're more than a guy who works in theater. You are someone who is like, your name is out there, like as much as you might not want it to be. Like I think you have been in so many facets of the theater space, from like producing cast albums, certainly your cabaret career that we'll talk about, your journey there, and like your graphic design stuff. I remember a lot of the women who I love their performance albums, you're like in the liner notes of like,
my
thank
name
you, Robbie
is
Rozelle.
So many damn liner notes in many, like I did a show last year called Citation Needed, where I was writing my Wikipedia entry in real time, even though that's not a real thing. It was just like something to hang a show on. But in the course of it, I went to a website called allmusic.com, and I'm listed in over 300 albums, and that's insane.
Why does that surprise you? Because you must have been involved in somehow. Is it more like you look back and how have I done all that? Or
because I never intended to be in this any of the industries that everything I've ever done, I fall into ass backwards and just accidentally and very happily. But it
Yeah.
was never, I never chased something saying, I'm going to do this
Hmm.
and make the thing. It just sort of organically happened. Everything I've ever done, I came into this sort of career later in life there, but it was not intentional. It was intentional in that I love it and want to do it, but it wasn't. I didn't seek it out.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
it found me, kind of the way arts always find people when they need it the most.
Yeah. Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It does completely make sense. I mean, that's certainly my experience with it. And I think let's go back to like where is little Robbie Rozelle from? Like, how would you describe who you were?
Sure.
Like,
I grew up, I was born in Binghamton, New York, and grew up in Binghamton and environs. We moved around a lot. I'm the oldest of seven.
so
So
the
I
oldest of
just,
seven. That says a lot right there. You were paving the way for all of that.
people often are like, "Hey, are you ever going to have a kid?" And I was like, "No, I've raised all mine
Oh.
because they were my brothers and sisters."
What's the
Um,
age difference between you and your youngest sibling?
About 12 years, maybe 13, somewhere in
Okay.
there.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was like very fast. They just kept coming.
Yeah.
And my
Yeah.
parents split when I was in second grade. Um, and they each had like a child of their own. So I have two sisters that are half sisters, yes, who are the youngest of them, and they had
Okay.
them the same year. I grew up in Binghamton, and which is like a tiny town known for having like a SUNY school and nothing else, and like a Denny's. And
Hmm.
I was very obviously gay, but didn't quite know what to do with that. And I fell in love with musicals because they were on TV all the time. And I don't know how old you are, but I turned 50
I'm
this year.
I'm 47. I'm almost 47. Yeah.
Great. So I'm
Yeah.
49 right now, and we're roughly the same age. Like the television was our babysitter, right?
Hmm.
And every year at Thanksgiving, The Wizard of Oz was on. Every Easter, The Sound of Music was on. And we sat around the big television as a family, watching these musicals that were sort of formative to me. And then when I was also smart. I wish that stuck. But so like I skipped a grade, and so I was younger than other people in my class, which has advantages and disadvantages. A lot of disadvantages, I would say. I think kids probably need to like come up with people their own age,
Hmm.
and so I went into high school young, and I was sort of lost in high school. I was one of those kids who definitely like ate their lunch in like the guidance counselor's office, or I made friends with the school
I'm
secretaries,
getting a good
things like.
picture now.
And then one day I saw an audition note, like a sign that was like audition for the spring musical, and it was The Wizard of Oz. And I was like, wait, but I know The Wizard of Oz. I could be in The Wizard of Oz. And
Yeah.
so I went in. I was like, I'll probably play like Who Rang That Bell, or something like. I didn't have any grand plan. It was just I could do this and I would be good at it, because I had grown up in chorus and show choir, stuff like that. But I auditioned. I got a lead. I was cast as the Scarecrow in The Wizard of Oz in eighth grade, which pissed off a lot of seniors, but set me down.
Yeah.
Like there's that
Yeah.
senior advantage, right? They're gonna
Yeah.
do Little Shop of
Like, who
Horrors
is
for
this
me
kid
because
taking
yeah,
our
exactly.
opportunities?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
And trying to
And
find your
so,
people, you ostracize yourself further from your people.
yep, it was going great for me, Bob. It was not great. I do remember like the set designer who was like I feel like he was a science teacher or something. Anyway, I remember him saying, anybody got a match? I had a
Yeah.
lot of energy. And of course, like I was out. I came out early. I came out when I was 16, but like I was not, I've never sort of toned down who I am. I just
Yeah.
existed.
Yeah.
Um, and maybe I should have. Maybe that would have kept me safer. But I'm also glad that I didn't because I'm who I am because of that. And we grew up in the 80s. We were tougher just because we
Yeah.
had to be, right?
But we also
Uh,
didn't really have role models of like what that looked like. There was
None. It was
no
just Charles Nelson Riley and Paul Lynde. Like that's all we
exactly the
had.
people that you talk
And
about that you've found were your type. Yeah. It's a
yeah,
I think there's something to be said around people who are our age who come out like especially in small towns. It says a lot about your
yeah,
character because I knew who I was, but I was like, I'm not coming out here because I don't feel safe and I don't have enough confidence in knowing who I am to feel I can own it and defend myself.
sure.
I'm just trying to get through the day right now and I don't want to have more drama. So everyone has their own journey, right? But I think when
A hundred
someone
percent.
comes out in the 80s in a small town in their high school as like
Right.
skipped a grade, you have balls.
I I also just think like you didn't need flashcards. Like there was no
Yeah.
hiding it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you are who you are and like authentically who you are. And certainly like a lot of being young and gay is
Yeah.
like wearing a mask. And
Yeah. It's
I
exhausting.
didn't have time for that because I
Yeah.
was also dealing with like my home life and stuff like that. So there I was. And I sort of did the high school musicals and stuff like that for a long time. And that's like when I discovered the AOL chat room of Playbill Online.
Hmm.
Remember, it started as an AOL chat room and it was sort of like M for M, but with like Barbara Cook references, nothing else. Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's where I found truly where I found my people.
Interesting.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
like that the online community is sort of where I found I could fit in. And that's
I
how
didn't
I
get online
started.
until I was like 16 or 17 and I was like almost out of high school. But I found like a bunch of my people there too. In a small town, you
Yeah.
find like-minded people who you learn
Hmm.
from too. You learn a lot of your theatrical
A
history. There are a lot of
100%.
sage old wise gays on those chat
I
rooms
don't
who are
want to say
telling
it's
us
me, but it's me.
we've become them,
Yes.
but no one cares
Yes. Well,
anymore.
not at all. But in that time, I was also I was teaching myself like coding, like website coding.
Yeah.
And so when I was 15 years old, I discovered that there was a musical that Betty Buckley starred in of Stephen King's novel Carrie. And I said, I need to know more. And so I
Did you build the website, the
sure
first
did.
fan website?
Yeah.
Okay, I knew there was a connection online that I'm
Hmm.
forgetting here. That was you. What was it called?
Yeah.
The Shrine or
Carrie the
something?
Musical website, the
Okay.
unofficial, like whatever. And it
I've
started as the
been there many
GeoCities
times.
website that was
Yeah.
like geocities.com/alley slash with it had like 100 things
Yeah.
to get to like Carrie before I discovered that you could just buy carriethemusical.com. It was in Entertainment Weekly. Uh, and suddenly like I blew up. Like this website blew up. I and again, I just did it because I wanted the information. The information wasn't out there. So I went to the local college library and pulled like their stacks. They had like London newspapers in like big, thick binders. And I pulled all the reviews for this musical, put them online. I typed from the soundboard tapes, Maxwell tapes. Um, I typed the script. There were like shitty midis of
Yeah.
music from it, just so you could
Yeah.
have a sense of it. And there
Yeah.
were like I think 6 photos.
This is
That's all that
scratching an itch
existed.
in my brain. I remember going here a
Isn't
lot
it
as a
nuts?
kid. When I was roughly your age, around that same time period, I discovered a performer named Patti LuPone and realized that she had no online presence. And I made the first
Oh.
page dedicated to her in my computer science class. And it was like the only resource. If you searched, that was the only thing that would pop up was my website.
That's insane.
I remember it was
That's
like purple, and when you launched it, it played her singing. I got a kick out of you. Like the page took forever to launch because I like had like her like a
a
recording
real
of it
media
playing.
clip.
Yes. Well, wow. Um, and yeah, so I get it. There was a moment where like the internet was the Wild West. We were on there building the trails
The
now
Oregon
exist.
Trail, really.
Yeah,
And we
no
both
kidding.
died of dysentery, of
We both
musical theater
did.
dysentery. Uh,
Yeah. So it's very similar. Just quickly going back, when you were like
sure.
discovering musicals and stuff,
Hmm.
like what were your shows?
They were all movie musicals. I didn't see like my first Broadway show until 1994. And so they were all like the 1982 Annie. But I started collecting cast albums, and that's when like the love really grew.
Yeah.
Was discovering the ladies, specifically the ladies. It was
Yeah.
Laurie Beachman. It was
Yeah.
Betty Buckley. It
Hmm.
was Patti LuPone. Patty came a little later for me.
Hmm.
Um, it was Liz Calloway. And
Hmm.
what's so weird is like now I worked with almost all these women,
Yeah.
not Lori, unfortunately, but like I was just collecting their music and through that discovering shows. Because of Liz Calloway and like the Story Goes On album, I discovered Merrily We Roll Along. I discovered Baby. I discovered like all these things. And then I
Yeah.
would go and buy the cast albums of these things. And then one day I realized, if I worked at the CD store in my mall, I could get a discount. And and so I got a job there as Christmas help. It rolled into me becoming the store manager 2 years later, and they moved me to a small town. I'm still buying these cast albums, but also now we've jumped to the year 2000, and suddenly I have a second job. I'm working with a record label called Finsworth Alley.
Oh yeah.
And
I
I
remember
said
that.
job in quotation marks because they paid me in CDs, which is like being paid in exposure, and people die from exposure.
Yeah.
But it was expanding my collection,
Yeah.
and it opened so many doors to me that wouldn't have happened any other way. So
Yeah. I
I'm
remember
running this,
getting that catalog of theirs, and they had
right?
all this stuff, such
The
obscure
brown
stuff.
label, the like the
Yes.
that burgundy side.
Yeah.
You remember every single one of those. Emily
Hmm.
Skinner, Alice Ripley,
Yeah.
um, Sally Mays, Brent Barrett, Jason Gra. The cast albums were so key, just so uh, like important to me and formative. And because I had this sort of brain that was like a card catalog of songs, which really serves me now in what I
Hmm.
do.
Hmm.
I'm able to go back and be like, let's look at this undiscovered gem from like Henry Sweet Henry or like whatever it is because of that time. While I was working with them, a singer named Jessica Molaski had put out her first album. Jess is most famous for singing "Stars in the Moon"
Yeah.
in "Songs for New World."
And her husband's like a jazz guitarist, right? A
John
jazz
John
musician.
Pizzarelli. Yep.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And Jess had released her first album, and I wrote the record producer of that label. It was called PS Classics. And I was just like, hey, I just want you to know, like, I'm with this record label. I'm not writing you for any other reason than to say I am a fan of what you do. I love it so much. And his name was Tommy Crester. And Tommy wrote me 6 months later, Finsworth Alley had folded. And because of that, suddenly I was like a free agent. And Tommy wrote me and asked me if I would be interested in like helping out the label. Now,
And
Tommy,
were you doing all of this? Where were you living at this time?
Hazleton, Pennsylvania, and
Okay.
a tiny, tiny town.
So you were
Um,
basically working remotely for them?
yeah, basically
Wow.
on
Okay.
dial-up, or I would come in for sessions. You
Yeah.
know, Tommy, Tommy asked if I'd be interested in helping out with the label. Yes, of course, absolutely. Which opened the door to me working, like sitting next to Maury Yeston, holding scores
Hmm.
of his show. I don't read music, but like I'm sitting there with the score, following it in case somebody didn't sing the correct phrase. Somebody
Right.
has adjusted a word. My
Yeah.
very first album with him was Nine, the revival of Nine.
Oh, wow.
I know. And it was
Wow.
recorded in my friend in the Hit Factory, which is now condos. And my friend Patrick's apartment is that studio. And so every time I'm in there, I'm like, Tita recorded right here.
Yeah.
Which is
And he's like, I know,
crazy.
Robbie, I know.
Yeah. He's like, can you shut up?
That revival seems like it was yesterday, but it was also like what, 20 years ago?
Over. It was
Wow.
2002, I want to say.
Okay, so
It was,
24 years ago. Yeah, that is crazy. Yeah, so
yeah.
it's that what amazing opportunity to go from like, managing a or managing a record store to like
Hmm.
working for peanuts for Bruce Kimmel, and
Right.
then all of a sudden there you are like standing alongside Maury Yeston and Cheetah Rivera helping make sure she doesn't forget her lines, which
And
is
I did like
recording.
15 Stephen Sondheim albums during that time
Amazing.
with Tommy, because Tommy was Steve's producer of choice. During this, the record store has folded, and I was left jobless in the middle of like this town that is so small. It's basically like just a Waffle House without walls. I start working at like a Taco Bell and a movie theater and like truly anything to make ends meet. I worked at a bookstore for a while, which is where I met my now husband because he just kept coming in and buying books and he wasn't
And
reading any of them.
what a little meet cute. I love that.
Yes, we still have all the books. So
I think I
if
see some of them
anybody,
back there behind you.
right? If anybody really wants to read The Lovely Bones, I will ship it to you. But then I started running a hotel, Hampton Inn in Hazleton, Pennsylvania. My lease was coming up and I was about to turn 35. And I was like, what am I doing? I didn't go to college, like none of that. So what am I
Hmm.
doing? I just was like, well, it's now or never, right? So we hopped on Craigslist. We saw a place in Astoria. And I said, well, let's drive in. Like, well, what's the worst it could be? No, we came here and it was like a one bedroom for 1,500 a month. We decided to take it, but I didn't have a job.
Yeah.
I quit my job at the Hampton Inn and just moved here like on $300 and a prayer, just trusting that like a net would appear. I was scrolling Playbill.com one day and I saw that they were hiring. Playbill was hiring for like a digital archivist, which meant like scanning old playbills for the vault.
Yeah.
And I, through my various like coming up in the world, and like I had friends at Playbill. So
Yeah.
when I applied, it was like Andrew Gans, who like Betty Buckley's biggest fan, and we had become friends. So when I applied, I CC'd him on my application, just hoping that would get me in the door. It did. They hired me for $10 an hour.
And this was in
Uh huh.
2012.
Yeah. Yeah.
In New York, $10 an hour.
Hmm.
Boy, boy, oh boy. Just before we go even further with that, like
Please.
moving at 35
Yeah.
without a job. And what did your husband have to say about this? Was he like, let's go, let's do it?
Yes.
I,
He
I
also
mean,
is the most anxiety riddled human alive.
oh
So he was very much like, okay, let's find a way to make this work. And what he did was he was working as a therapist at the time, like a group therapist. He kept his job there for 2 years and like lived with his parents and would come in on weekends. So he
no.
would leave there Friday afternoon, drive here over the GWB, and with somebody with anxiety trying to deal with that.
Oh boy, he must love you very
Hilarious.
much.
Yes. And I, same. But that's how, like, we afforded, I had my job
Yeah,
at Playbill,
yeah.
and he had his therapy job, and he was applying for everything here. And one day, Playbill was like looking for a receptionist. And I said, hey, Len, Playbill's looking for a receptionist. Like, I can't get you the job, but like, I can certainly ask them to bring you in. He applied, and one day we were on the phone because that's how we communicated. Like, I was walking to the train and he was on the phone with me, like weeping. I'm it's never going to happen. I'm never going to get to New York. And then the other line rang for him, and it was a 212 number, and he was like, um, Broadway's calling. Uh, but literally, it was. It
Yeah.
was Playbill offering him the job, and so he got a job as the receptionist. I had moved up to creative director of Playbill. There's like a pattern of me like jumping, right?
Yeah.
I start as something small and build. And that's sort of always been the thing. It's sort of like just doing the monkey bars. Like,
Yeah. It sounds like you're really good at networking. It sounds like to me. I mean,
I don't
maybe you
know
don't
about
even think of
that.
it that way,
I
but
don't know because I really hate small talk.
yeah.
And because I'm 50 now, I was like, oh God, do I have to go to a
Sure.
party?
But networking can also be knowing who to go to ask for favors in a very strategic way. And they know who you
Sure.
are because you've demonstrated your capability. It doesn't always have to be like cocktail conversation, which
No,
is
I
gross.
also think
Yeah.
like kindness is key. And like if you are
Yeah.
kind to people, they will remember that and treat you accordingly.
Yeah.
And I think kindness, I mean, there's certainly like a lot of snark in my life, but
What you
like
don't hear a lot about, like in the Broadway community, like you don't think kindness will get you moved up. You think it will be like, who do you
that it has to be
know?
cutthroat. Right. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or not even
But
cutthroat. It's more like, who do you know and what can you do for me? Right?
when like casting directors and directors in general and like teams who are putting together shows, when they're putting together like their cast, they're like, who is going to be okay to be with for a year,
Yeah.
like in
Yeah.
in a room.
Yeah.
And so that really plays in. And I just think like I'm a nice guy.
During Pride, the Playbill cover that has the rainbow, you designed that, didn't you? Did I make that up?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I so there were four people at Playbill who sort of created Playbill Pride, and I was the graphic artist component
Okay.
of that.
Yeah.
Next to Blake Ross, the editor in chief, and Adam Hetrick, who was the editor in chief of Playbill.com.
I mean to cut you
Michael
off.
Joya, who he was like the head writer for Playbill at the time.
Okay. Blake Ross
Hmm.
did she have a podcast called The Flame?
Yes.
Okay, I was a
Uh-huh.
special guest on her podcast. Yeah,
Yeah, it was
okay. She's super
about
cool.
Rebecca.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's a great
Yep.
pod.
Yep. It really was.
Burnt.
Yeah.
It was called Burnt.
Burnt. That's what it was. Burnt. It
Yeah.
was like a
Hmm.
flame on a thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I just wanted to, I was like, that I haven't that name rang a bell. But very
Hmm.
cool. So when you're at Playbill, and I kind of want to get to your cabaret stuff because that's kind of like
Sure.
where the story is for this particular podcast. But when you're at Playbill, we're constantly like behind the scenes, seeing people who are doing the thing, who are up on stage. Was there ever an inkling that you wanted, like, certainly did it in high school and you had a blast and you were like stealing roles from seniors. Did that fade away after you graduated from high school? Was it always in the back of your mind that something I
Yeah.
wanted to do?
I never thought, oh, I'm going to perform again. I mean, I would do community theater,
Yeah.
just to like do it, but that sort of even had faded away because like a lot of community theaters are built by parents of somebody, right? So that their kid can be a star, or something like that, which is fine, but it's not, it didn't really serve me because I
Yeah.
wasn't the kid. And so I would do
I
stuff,
mean, maybe
but I,
community theaters in your area. Where I'm from, there's so much community theater, and it has
sure.
its own complexities. But thankfully, it's not nepotism isn't one of them.
Yeah, I mean, like I was
Yeah,
living in small towns where it was just
sure, and
like,
that's a very different animal. Those community theater
uh,
scenes. So you never really thought, just because of the opportunities available, you just kind of pushed it aside.
I just was happy, like making my little albums, like sitting next to Steve Sondheim, working with Jerry Herman, whatever,
Yeah,
like a pebble in the stream.
I'm diving down a rabbit hole, and I don't want to spend too long here. But give me a
Go.
Stephen Sondheim story.
Sure. He was great. He is so smart. So, but he would come in and, he always looked sort of rumpled.
Yeah,
And he would sit on the couch. Everybody's seen like, what a recording studio looks like. And there's like the big sort of desk that the mixing board is on. And then there's like a couch in front of it. And like, that's the booth. And you're looking through a window at singers and orchestra or whatever. And he would come in and he'd have his New York Times up in front of him. And he wasn't really reading it. He was trying to not be swayed by visual actors. And so he was listening. And every so often, the paper would come down and oh, that's not what I wrote. And so then he would have to like go off in and give notes to like the cast of assassins or whatever.
It's booby, not booby.
Or right, rune. Um, and then, or like, Follies was the last one I did. And
The
like,
Bernadette revival
mhm,
one? Okay.
yeah. And
Yeah.
that was like a lot of, or the last one I did with PS Classics. I did the classic stage assassins after that. I did the Disco Sondheim album after that. But like the last time I was in a room with him
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
Follies, which was what, 2018? It was 2016, 20. I truly, time is means nothing anymore.
I know.
But he, and he would go off and in and like take the actor side. He was very astute, very smart. He
Yeah.
was just, I don't have like a crazy, and then he fell kind of story because that just wasn't who he was. He was just,
Yeah.
he looked like a rumpled bag, and always
But
had
I
a
like the
newspaper
fact that
out.
he was very like he's probably seemed really unassuming reading a paper, but it was more of a tool to get him to focus on what was
Hmm.
happening in the recording studio.
I think too that way because when you're the singer in the booth, you can see in,
Yeah.
and nobody wants to stare at Steve Sondheim while they're singing his song and maybe messing up a rhythm or something and just see a face fall. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he was very
He's learned a
right.
few things. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
That is a
So
fascinating story. Thank you for sharing that with me.
of course.
Um, so let's skip over to, and I know there's so much you've done, but let's skip to when you were deciding, you know what, I want to put together an autobiographical one-man show at 54 Below. I'm not sure if that's where it premiered, but you did that when you were turned 40. Was it kind of like,
When I turned
was it
40,
like a
yeah.
35 now and never type thing? I'm turning 40, why not now type thing? What was
No.
the inspiration?
I had uh, started directing a lot of like the singers that I had done albums with.
Yeah.
Um, and Elena Shadow was like the first one. And I like to say that I give jokes to sopranos because they need them. But like I was helping like shape their shows and their arc. And because I am funny, every time I would do something, somebody at 54 would say, "Oh, that's what you should really do your own show." And I was like, "No, nobody wants to see my own show." And like out of Elena fell Jessica Vosk, and like we did stuff for 5 years together that like culminated in her first album. And I just kept making shows with other people because I really like just telling stories with
Yeah.
people, right? Which is what theater is. It's just telling stories. You should do your own show. You should do your own show. So they wore me down. And one day I just put it on Facebook. Remember when we all used Facebook all the time?
Yeah.
And I said, hypothetically, if I did a show, would you hypothetically come to the thing? And an hour later, I had a date and a contract. And so then I had to build a show.
It's like you get the advance for your novel and then you have to write it.
Then you're like, oh, fuck. Now I have to write the thing. Yes, exactly. And, you know, I was never interested in I always wanted to be an actress. So I moved to New York and my boyfriend broke up with me. Here's Times Like This
Yeah.
from Lucky Stiff, right? Here's a song about my cat. Like, that is not interesting to me. What was interesting to me, though, were the songs that sort of like saved my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's what building that show was. And so I called the only sort of music director I knew at that point who lived in Syracuse at the time. And I was like, hey, so 54 wants me to do this show. Are you down to arrange it and MD it? And he was like, yeah. I was like, okay. So here's what I'm thinking. And we built a version of the show, which is three-quarters of what the record is. Like there were
Yeah.
things that I did the first time that no longer exist. Like I had a literal porn star playing tuba. while I sang the Barbara Cook "Them Their Eyes" and I played kazoo. I didn't know that he was a made art films at the time. I found that out after when I discovered his oeuvre. But I was just like, this will be something funny, and I wrote like a rewrite of Dear Mr. Gable, You Made Me Love You, called Dear Bernie Telsey. And it was like a self tape.
Right.
And I had a nonsense Carrie medley that went into a song from Carrie. And my special guest was Bonnie Milligan as Carrie. And we
Hmm.
did I Remember How Those Boys Could Dance Together. It was nuts. Um, and then and it was truly just a one off. I
Yeah.
have a six-piece band because like I have friends who play. And so I just was creating bits for them to do.
I was
And it was
really
just to
impressed with
entertain
when I listened to
friends.
the album, how funny and like how you can certainly tell that you have the skill of putting together a cabaret performance. You
No.
even comment on it, a lot like the K-hole of a ballad or whatever. Like
Sure, yeah,
you
the
know the
Ballet.
structure, but also
Uh-huh.
the production value of it with the arrangements and the musicians, and like you
Thank
probably had to
you.
scrape that together. That comes from that comes from networking and knowing people and knowing who to
Sure.
ask. And yeah, it's
And
really
also
was
like
remarkable.
Josh, who was my MD, who we just lost this past year.
Oh.
Um, he had a stroke, and it's very sad. But he has a brain like mine where we can puzzle things together. So like
Hmm.
that sort of "Let's Misbehave" is my opening number, but underneath it is "Merrily We Roll Along," and that's
Yeah.
all him.
Hmm.
That bum
Hmm.
bum ba da dum is genius. He walked in one day and said, "Let me play you this." But also, like I wrote the Aged Out medley. We Rubik's Cube very well together. Oh, I love him so much. He was running a theater in feel like Virginia or some I don't
Yeah.
and so he wasn't able to be my MD much longer. And I thankfully have found this wonderful man, Yasuhiko Fukuoka, who I work with all the time now. But Josh was like the blueprint.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
uh, so it was supposed to be one night. We sold out. So hey, would you, by popular demand, come back? Sure, sh- sure. Twist my arm. And it sort of became a thing. And also, it was I had turned 40, but it was also the year Trump got elected. And I
Yeah.
thought, well, that's the scariest thing that's ever going to happen in my life. So I can just get on stage and do niche musical theater jokes for 90 minutes, 75 minutes, like whatever.
Hmm.
Sure. And it sort of snowballed. It was not intentional. Again, nothing's intentional.
Yeah. But
It
you kind of
just,
stumble into new opportunities and you kind of build on that. So this is
yeah,
like how many shows have you done? How many
I want to say 12, 13, like very different
very
shows.
different versions of yeah, with different titles?
Not just Songs from Inside My Locker, but like at every show has like a different theme or
Yes.
structure to it. I did a full show about anxiety called Bring Me Giants. I did a show at 54 called Contractually Obligated because I was.
Yeah.
Um, and so I was like, well, that's funny.
What did you
I
learn
played
about yourself
London.
after that first one where you did it?
Ooh,
And what did you learn about like what surprised you?
I walked on stage and left my body. Truly, like just hovered over myself. And for 75 minutes, I don't remember any of it.
Hmm.
I have watched it back. I don't think that I was particularly incredible that night because the crowd was so raucous that my throat kind of closed. I learned that I should be on beta blockers. Uh, but I also learned that I needed to stay grounded and within my body. Um, that's the first thing I learned
Yeah.
was just I learned that I'm very good at creating these things, and I learned that I have some like I could build an audience.
Yeah.
Um,
I would imagine too, like I mean, I hear a lot of people say this where they're amazing performers on stage, And some of them don't get nervous anymore performing, but when they have to be up there and be themselves and they're not a
It's a whole
character,
different ball of
a
wax.
whole different thing. It's just you and your own thing. I was speaking with my previous guest. He started doing stand-up comedy and it was the same type of thing where he went from being an actor to stand-up comedy. It's like it's kind of
Hmm.
like, here's what I think is funny. I hope you do too, you
Yeah,
know?
exactly. And like I had to trust my gut and I had to trust my audience.
Yeah.
I had to trust that they were just along for the ride. And whatever I did, they would be cool with. And listen, I have definitely have told jokes where I've crossed a line, like not in a bad way, but I've definitely like gone too far because like half of my show I want to say is stand up.
Yeah.
And you know, you get murky when you as you're like ping ponging with an audience, not as much anymore, but like I want to say every show there's like one joke that's like a little too dark, and I have to be like, guys, it's 10 o'clock on a Saturday. That joke is fine because I have this career where I'm doing what I do. I have stories of my times in the trenches, and so
Yeah.
I can draw on Patty LaPone using me as a footrest. Tell that as a story.
Can you tell me
Robbie,
that story quickly? I want to hear it.
love to. I was doing her album "Don't Monkey with Broadway,"
Yes.
and I got an email to come to her dressing room at Warpaint. Walked into the Needle Theater. Hi, I'm here. Miss LaPone has requested me, and so they call back, whatever. And so I go, and her dressing room smells like fish. And I'm
Oh,
like, what is happening?
is that what I was
And she's
expecting?
like, she said, Robbie, I just had the most delicious scallops with lemon. And I was like, oh. Um, and then but then she said to me these words, Robbie, I had to have my hip replaced, so my coccyxes have to like down. So I don't know how we're gonna do this. Oh, I could put my feet on you. And she did. And now it's in my act. Because like, how can you not? And like I rested my laptop on like this coffee table in front of us as we're like editing the booklet for Don't Monkey with Broadway. And she's got her like anything goes feet on me.
So first, your Patti LuPone impersonation is top tier.
Oh, it's because I work with Jonathan Hoover a lot. But thank
I know.
you.
I love Jonathan. He's so
The
great.
best.
Yeah. But that is a very funny story and a very funny impersonation. I can only imagine what that must have been like. I've only met her a couple of
Yes.
times and they weren't lovely experiences, but I'm still a fan.
Oh, that makes me sad.
It was a weird situation for both of us. I don't think that people
Okay.
aren't always who they are in every situation. So,
Sure. She
yeah.
has been nothing. Listen, the first album I ever did for her was The Reissues of Matters of the Heart.
Yeah.
And I sent it off to her. I sent it off to the label and I sent it off to, I think her publicist was like, who was sort of shepherding the project. And everybody was like, this is great, blah, blah, blah. And then I got an email that said, Robbie, can I call you after the matinee of shows for days when I'm on my way to Connecticut? I have some thoughts. And I thought, oh my God, Patty LuPone wants a meeting. So I called Laura Benanti because she's a good friend. And I said, Patty, Patty wants to call me. What do I do? And Laura got very serious and she said, you be respectful. You don't do any of your jokes. If you need clarity on something, you ask for it, but you ask respectfully. And I had diarrhea from both ends. I was so terrified. And she literally was like, Robbie, this is just so lovely and beautiful. I would like the U in my name to be lowercase, and I would like to remove this name. And that was it. I was terrified about two tiny notes. And I was like, this could have been an email. But like, I was very respectful about it. And like when I just did her last album, the what it was, My Life in Notes.
Yeah.
She called me. We hadn't even gone to the printer yet, and she had left like her longtime stage manager out, and I was having dinner before seeing, I don't know, Ben Platt at the Palace or something, I was having dinner with some gays, and like my phone has like this gorgeous shot of her, like comes up when she calls me, and it's ringing, and I'm getting butter service at like Italy, or no,
Yeah.
at Quality Bistro, right? And I lifted up the phone, and the gay gasp that happened, it was like dolphins speaking to each other. And one just said, answer it. And I did. And she was like, oh, I left this person out. They'll be so much hurt. And I was like, it's fine. We're not going to print for a week. I've got you. Can you just email me the name and we'll take care of it? And she's just been lovely to me. But that's been my experience.
I love it so much. I love it so much. So let's talk a little bit around if you're looking like out into the next year or so, what do you want to do with this? What do you want to do with this side of yourself that you've discovered over the past 9 years?
It's so interesting because like this is the year I turned 50.
Yeah.
This will be my 10th year performing. And like I had sort of set everything in motion that I was sort of drifting into becoming like a performer. I
Yeah.
created this album, and then I was going to set up a tour and stuff, and the world shut down.
Yeah.
COVID sort of killed a lot of the stuff that I had set up. My album came out like in the middle of it, but like I wasn't about to like go on podcasts and be like, please buy my album because like
Yeah.
there were a lot bigger things going on. And I don't just mean like Tiger King. I mean like very serious issues were happening
Yeah.
in the world. And so to be like, hi, I am the little white gay boy. Please listen to my sad story. I had a plan, and the plan sort of fell away. I started, I played London. I don't know. Like, I would love to take one of these shows or sort of a party mix of like the greatest hits, if you will, around and play like the West Coast or P Town, or places like that. Everything I do is self-produced. It's a lot of like, "Hi, please like me. Knock, knock,
Yeah.
knock. Please listen to me." And it can be very wearing. I don't know.
The idea of self-producing is
Mhm.
so, I think it's becoming more of a necessity versus kind of a like
Yeah.
a creative endeavor because I'm putting words in your mouth, but I'm imagining it's a matter of you have to put yourself out there for people to acknowledge what you have to offer. You can't wait for
So
permission.
the liner notes of my album tell a story about Jan Maxwell. A friend of mine had or has, I think, still had like a interview series that sort of became a podcast. But he was interviewing Jan Maxwell, and he was like, "Hey, would you please come and just hold the camera and film me like with Jan Maxwell?" And I was like, "Yeah, like
And Jen Maxwell,
it,
for people who don't know, was a beloved,
please."
celebrated actress who passed away pretty tragically and quickly, I think. Her last
Yeah,
real performance was in Follies, wasn't it?
she
Was
had
it?
done. She did like an off Broadway. I feel like it was Happy Ending or something, where like you're buried up to your neck in dirt, like
Oh,
one of
okay.
those things.
Yeah.
This was
Yeah.
right after Follies, but like
Okay.
her last major thing was Follies. That like,
Yeah.
and she should have won a Tony for it. She was spectacular. Anytime a friend is like, "Hey, can you?" If I'm available, I'm so happy to do it. And so I was happy to be there. And he asked that sort of standard question of like, what advice do you have for young people? And half expected, stay in school, say yes to like one of those things. But Jan Maxwell looked straight down the eye of the camera and into my soul and said, "You have to choose yourself and others will choose you. You have to make your own thing." There are
Hmm.
so many ways to get yourself out there now with YouTube at the time and stuff like that. Now it's like TikTok, I guess. But like you have to choose yourself and other people will choose you. And that was like, I heard like a lock turn inside of myself.
Yeah.
Oh, right. And that was sort of the impetus of, well, I guess I'm gonna do my own thing now. So that's sort of what I say to other people. Like self-producing, it's hard, but it is born out of necessity. And people find you. Like I found you because you did your passion project, right?
Hmm.
Um, you created the Sunset Project.
Hmm.
Um, and that's when I was like, oh, I like this guy. I also have like a very soft spot for Sunset Boulevard. You have no idea.
There are a
Um,
lot of people do that
I-
are like us. It's amazing.
I've
I
been
very quickly I have
everywhere.
people who've reached out to me around the world who are like,
Hmm.
um, one guy has all the original costumes from the German production in his mansion that he has on mannequins. They're like posed in his house. And he sent me
I
all the photos. I mean, like there are
okay,
people who are crazy about this show, which I just thought I have a
sure,
fun story to tell. No one will listen to it except my friend Ali, maybe Robbie Rozelle, and a few other nerds, you know? And
sure
then all these
did.
people came out of the
Yes,
woodwork were like, yes, I love that show. I'm like, weird. It's so weird. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, producing your own thing, you just have to do it. Like people tell me all the time, like, what do I do? And like and I would love to hear your perspective, but the biggest thing I've learned is just do it. Don't overthink it.
yeah,
Just do it.
no, you can't overthink it. You if you do it, if you leap and trust that the net appears. I have never not known the net to appear. Um, and like crazy things have happened in my life, but as a result of it, because I just trusted, now I have like a record and I have like I had a residency at 54, like a year-long residency. I also have like yearly shows there. I played Birdland. I played London. I've done these things that a little kid from Binghamton, New York, who had stopped performing because I didn't think I was enough.
Right.
Now I'm doing those things. Like I have all that, and it's just because I made my own thing and I trusted that it would be enough.
Yeah. And I think that speaks a lot to the theme of the podcast because a lot of people I've talked to about 7 people now specifically for this series. It's the same
Hmm.
theme of like, just do it. Like, there's no, like,
Yeah,
why waste your time waiting and fretting and making sure you have the perfect opportunity to wait for the thing to land in your lap or to take that leap? And you might make a fool of yourself, whatever. At least,
but
would
if
you
you're
rather
not
regret not having tried? Right?
right, you're not. Nobody's handing you things, right?
Yeah.
You just have to sort of do it on your. Now you have just recently started performing again, and how do you feel that's changed you?
It was always a regret. I feel I can do this. I just don't have the confidence, or I don't even know where to begin. To answer your question, now that I've done it a few times, I'm like, why did I
Hmm.
wait so long? It's been so
Right.
fun. Why did I wait so long? I'm glad I'm doing
Oh,
it
but you got to
now.
do Ruthless. Like, ugh.
I did. That was a crazy fun
I mean, how
experience.
many nights have I sat on my couch watching the Joan Ryan video?
Yeah.
Um,
It was one of those things that I was not expecting. And kind of like you with your stuff, like from my experience, but this isn't about me, but I think it resonates. Is like I don't really plan out what the roles that are coming. Like there was a period
no,
like I'm always like I'll never do anything ever again, whatever. There's nothing out there for me. I'm a old white baritone who can't
stop
dance.
it.
And then like
So
a
see you and
Sylvia
come
St.
home.
Croix will pop up and I'm like, okay.
Right.
So if you had someone coming to you, and not
Sure.
necessarily about starting their own cabaret, but they were thinking about just in general, they're like, I'm turning 50. I don't know if this is the right time. I have so many other obligations. I don't think this is for me. It's too late. What would you say to them, Robbie Rozelle?
What makes it too late? There's the only thing stopping you is you. You have to get out of your head and just do the thing. Like, and listen, not everything's going to be great. Not everything's going to hit. Lord knows I've had my flops. I've had notes that I certainly have no business trying to sing. I truly refer to my voice as the regift and not the gift. Um, just like if you don't try, how do you know if you're going to fly or fail?
But if you were to title the chapter, this phase of your life as a chapter
Oh,
of a book, what would this title be for this chapter of your life?
that's a great question because it's so interesting because I'm looking at everything now through like decades, right?
Yeah.
the 30s were the year that I came here, and the 40s were the year that I started performing, like in earnest. Stepping into my spotlight, I think, like stepping into my own, but truly,
Mhm.
like find your light. That's the best. Like that's
Finding your light.
what.
We're workshopping it. I think it's finding your light. That's,
Yeah, I
I
think
like
so.
that.
I right because like perfect, like truly, like please light me, but also like find the your sort of inner light. Like if you're not
Yeah.
doing what you
Yeah.
wanted or love, then your inner light is dark and or it's not on. And so like flipping that switch is so key.
I love that.
Huh.
It's
I hope
beautiful.
that wasn't too much.
Why would that be maudlin? So, what can you plug, Robbie Rozelle? I hear that you just got done editing an album. What's coming up?
Oh yeah. I finished an album on Wednesday. It came out on Friday.
Ooh,
Kennedy Coggle's Just the Beginning is brand new. I produced that album. And on November 30th, I'm doing my 50th birthday concert at 54 Below,
nice.
Monday at 7 o'clock, which is a Broadway headliner situation. And I am, fun fact about me, equity adjacent. I've never been on Broadway. Chances are good that I will not be on Broadway. But
There's still time.
they asked me, and I said, okay. So we're doing like a big birthday bash called Despite Popular Demand. My album is on Spotify.
And
Listen to it.
RobbieRozelle.com, right?
Yeah, I'm very findable. Diva Robbie on socials. I'm so
The
Googleable. I don't know that you want me.
the
Like, I
Carrie
don't know that
White
you want
fan
to Google
site
me.
on Wayback
Sure.
Machine.
Oh my God.
That's the
Just that
thing about we have an
GeoCities.
internet footprint that haunts us. Robbie, it's been lovely meeting you. I'm so happy we're able to make this work, and I
Oh,
wish
we're
you
best
nothing
friends
but the
now.
best. I know.
I'm
I know.
thrilled.
You're I've
Thank you
heard a
for
lot of
having
great
me.
things about you, and they were all
Uh,
wrong. So,
yeah, that makes sense.
all right, take care.
Bye, friends.
Bye. Thank you for listening to Later in Life. This podcast has been hosted, edited, and produced by me, Bob Bullen. Cover art by Rachel Joyce. Theme music by Rocky Patera. If you like what you're hearing, please consider giving us a review and a rating on Apple Podcasts. And if there is a story that you feel might fit the vibe of this podcast series, please reach out to me. My email is thebroadwaybob@gmail.com. I look forward to hearing from you. And remember, it's never too late.